So I feel like every time Open Great League comes around, at some point people start running a whole bunch of Double Charm, Bastiodon, Victory Bell, all that stuff. And when that time comes, which it has now, Double Steel is just incredible. This also does quite well against the general meta, so it's just a good team. It works in a way that Pelipper is good against fighting and Mud Boys, and then you have Registeel to lure out those things with Stunfisk in the back. I have made a similar team before. I think Pelipper might be even better than the Trevenant I used back then. Works the same way. Pretty good right now. Going right into the first game, we lead into a Toxapex, and we have two better responses in the back, so the plan is to swap out. But we might as well see if we can try and catch a Sludge Wave on a Steel type, right? And we catch the move on Registeel. Very nice. Is this the Sludge Wave? It is. Very nice. And then they bring in a Chestnut. My thought here was that I wanted it to throw a superpower before I threw my Focus Blast, because that way the Focus Blast would be very close to lethal. It does about 60% to Chestnut, but I just get to 100 energy a lot quicker than the Chestnut do, so, or does, so that's not gonna happen. They throw one superpower and we live it, so they actually have to throw another one if they don't want to take a Focus Blast at this point. And now the question is, do I want to take a Frenzy Plant from a double debuff Chestnut? I don't think I do. It still does a lot, so I throw the Hurricane immediately. And they break back into Toxapex afterwards. And let's see, can we catch another Sludge Wave on a Steel type? No, that was probably pretty silly. They were probably aware of what I was doing at that point, doing it for the second time. But they throw the Brine instead, and then they bring in Sableye. And I go straight for the Earthquake. I feel like people are less likely to shield when they only have one, but maybe that's also exactly why they think that I'm gonna go for the nuke, so they actually go for the shield. I don't know, there's certainly some bait games there. Can we get to another one? We commit to the Earthquake, and we get to it on like 1 HP or something. This is huge. Bring back in the Pelipper, shield this move. I might maybe should have thrown my Weather Ball immediately. Pelipper does win CMP unless the Sableye is very attack weighted. I overfarm to like over 100 energy, then throw the Weather Ball. And now let's see, the Toxapex comes back in. Is a Hurricane enough to take it out from this range? Come on. It's not. But one wing attack is, and we win that game. Next game, lead into an Azumarill. I know that went pretty quick. Started my recording a bit late. They swap into a Sableye. And generally, when people swap out of a neutral matchup into another neutral matchup, it means they're trying to lure something out. So it's probably the Azumarill double ghost, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm thinking if I can get my Registeel onto a Azumarill and then Stunfisk onto Trevenant. I know Stunfisk doesn't have the best matchup against Trevenant, but I really just want my Registeel onto the Azumarill at this point. So I stay in and make sure I keep alignment. Come out with a bunch of energy as well. What are they gonna do? They bring back in the Azumarill, go up through a couple more wing attacks, then throw the Hurricane. And then they swap into Trevenant, and I already have my plan in place, so I swap Stunfisk very quickly, knowing that I want Registeel onto the Azumarill. Go for a Shadow Ball. Can we get to 2 Rock Slides? Throw the first one. And yes, we do get to the second one. And now I think we force the shield at this point. We do. And they overfarm perfectly to the CMP. So the Trevenant has a lot of health, or a lot of energy right now. I want to bring in my Pelipper as soon as possible to give them as little time to think as possible. Maybe they don't remember how much energy I have, so they make a mistake here because I did put it in this quickly. They should have definitely thrown a Seed Bomb, but even if they did that, I think it would have been a pretty good game. Well, we win that one. Next game we lead into a Lickitung. And again, we have 2 better responses, but might as well see if we can catch something on our way out. People like to throw one before you get to your move generally, or at least my elo. I'm at around 3000 right now. A little over, I think. So we catch the Body Slam on Registeel, save all the energy on Pelipper, and we lure out the Medicham. Very nice. get the attack debuff. So now Registeel is gonna be able to win the zero shields. Unless the body slam. Yeah, it's not because of the body slam, but they're forced to throw another move. So now the Medicham doesn't have a lot of energy. So we can overfarm even more with Pelipper. Go up to the CMP tie, throw the Weather Ball. And they bring in a Charm, Alola, Ninetales. Go for the Weather Ball, thinking that my Stunfisk is gonna be able to win this game. Then there's a bit of a lag here, so they get in 2 charms, unfortunately. But we get to the Hurricane, and we grab the last shield. And at this point, Stunfisk should be in a pretty good spot, being good against both Lickitung and Charm, Alola, Ninetales. So we shield the Weather Ball. If the Alola Ninetales is Shadow, you want to shield the Weather Ball more than you want to shield the Power Whip, because it does a little bit more damage. If the Alola Ninetales is non-Shadow, the Power Whips do more damage from Lickitung. I do decide to shield this, thinking it's just safe, they're just never gonna bait, and the Alola Ninetales is Charm, so it's not gonna get to another move. And then we get to an Earthquake on CMP. Very nice. And the Alola Ninetales, because it's running Charm, it's just not gonna be able to do anything here. So that's a good game. Next game we lead into an Azumarill. This is pretty awkward because we don't really want to see it on Stunfisk, but maybe we want to lure something out at some point. That's generally the play with this team. So go for the Hurricane, they shield it, let them throw one more bubble, and then we catch the move on Registeel. It just made a lot of sense for them to throw one more bubble and then throw their move there to throw in good timing. And then they bring in a Trevenant, so I'm immediately thinking it's probably a Sableye in the back, because I've seen so much Azumarill Double Ghost, which is also a good team. I made a video about it not too long ago as well. Just go for the Zap Cannon. I should have waited to throw the Zap Cannon, because if they got attack debuff, I wanted them to get the attack debuff as late as possible to give them as little farm as possible. But luckily they didn't, and they also only threw 6 Shadow Claws here, so I knew this was only a Seed Bomb. I probably should be throwing my Weather Ball here before they got to the next Seed Bomb, but now I have to shield. This is also fine. I come out with a lot of energy. They bring back in a Azumarill. This is great. Go for the Hurricane and swap out. And they swap in a Dragonair. I really wasn't expecting this Shadow Dragonair. My reasoning for going for Earthquake here is I'm going to be able to outpace to 2 Earthquakes before it gets to 3 Aqua Tails. And they no-shield it, but live on 1 HP, so they're still gonna get to an Aqua Tail. I no-shield their Aqua Tail because maybe they have Hydro Pump and Azumarill, and that's the more threatening move. I also go for the Rock Slide here, thinking that even if they no shield, I'm just going to be able to save my shield for Pelipper and then wing attack them down. And if they shielded it, I would have been able to shield my Stunfisk and get to an Earthquake. So now my Pelipper just has so much health that it's going to be able to win this game. That's a GG. Next game we lead into a Shadow Dragonair. And as I've said before, generally when it's a Shadow Dragonair lead, it's Medicham and Bastion in the back. Not always, but a lot of the time. So we need to lure out the Medicham at some point. I farm up a lot of energy, go for the Weather Ball bait. People like to shield their Shadow Dragonairs. And then I swap into my Registeel, and we catch the Body Slam as well. Very, very nice. And we lure out the Medicham. Very nice. This makes me think that it's like every time it's Dragonair, Medicham, it's almost always Bastiodon. I don't think I've seen it like without Bastiodon in the back, so this is a very good spot to be in. You just let the Registeel go. They go for an Ice Punch. They go for another one, thinking they're not going to be able to farm down, so now they don't have a lot of energy, so we can overfarm on Pelipper. We don't get to another move, unfortunately. And we overfarm a lot, throw one before they get to the next Ice Punch, I think. And I'm just going to swap out immediately, regardless of what comes in. And it is the Bastiodon, so this is a pretty good situation. The Dragonair threw all of its energy into Registeel earlier, when we caught the Body Slam, so this is a very good spot. I wasn't sure in the moment what did more damage, a Flamethrower or an Aqua Tail. An Aqua Tail does about 1% more damage. That is what you want to shield. So I let the flamethrower go, farm up a lot, go for the rock slide, which should be enough to take out the Dragonair at this point. Go for move, of course we have to shield it. And the Bastion is dry in energy, so there's just no reason to overfarm here. We can just mud shut it down after throwing this rock slide. Take out the Dragonair. The opponent realizes this is a very, very bad situation. And they concede. Next game, we lead into the mirror. And I'm thinking maybe this is a mirror team, because this is a team that I've seen before, got inspiration from. So I'm thinking, I want to catch a weather ball or like a move on my Registeel. Maybe if my opponent has the same team, they want to try and catch a move on their Registeel. So I'm anticipating they're going to maybe do that. So I just overfarm instead. They actually do try to catch. And then I bring my Stunfisk in on their Registeel. And I make a bit of a mistake here. I think I should have probably just let them get to their move. Instead, I leave my Stunfisk with no energy and in farm range, which is very dangerous. So if they're able to mud shut me down here, that's a very bad situation. But I am able to get to the Earthquake. So at least we're going to be able to grab a shield. And then we get farmed down. And I'm thinking I want my Pelipper onto their Stunfisk because it's a Pelipper in the back, and I want my Registeel onto the Pelipper. And at this point, I have to either throw my move because they have another rock slide, or anticipate they're gonna snipe me. I anticipate they're gonna stay in to throw the rock slide, so I go for the weather ball, but they go for the snipe. Good play by my opponent. So now we have Registeel versus a Pelipper and a Stunfisk with 2 shields. Of course, I want to save my shields for the Stunfisk. So I'm just going to let these go. And then over farm up to right before they get to the next move. And now they're going to bring in Stunfisk. And they have a lot of energy still. So they do have the Earthquake here. I decide to call it. I have 2 shields. It's just too tempting for them to bait me. So I decide to call it. And no shield the rock slide. Very nice. Go for the focus blast. But at this point, we are in rock slide range. So if they can get to 3 rock slides before we get to the next focus blast, they can actually win this. Can we outpace them? Yes, we can. We get to the focus blast. Very nice. Take out the Stunfisk. Next game, lead into a Frost Slash. Pretty neutral lead. But again, we have 2 steel types in the back. I want to see if I can maybe catch something on the steel type. Cannot. So the Frost Slash has like 10 Powder Snow's worth of energy now, which is always scary. Frost Slash with energy is so scary. But we lure up the Medicham. Very nice. Get off a Zap Cannon. And of course, Registeel does win the 0 shields against Medicham, which is pretty nuts. Get to another Zap Cannon. Throw it immediately. And they actually decide to let this go. And then try to farm me down, I think. Which is very scary. It's a good play by my opponent, I think. Because I'm not going to be able to get to another move here. So I don't want my Registeel to get farmed down. So I swap out. And Frost Slash's moves are the ones that are going to do the most damage to both Pelipper and Stunfisk. So these are the ones that I want to shield. And as I said earlier, it farmed up to 10 Powder Snows. It's 12 for back-to-back Avalanche. So I do one more wing attack, and now they have another Avalanche. So I want to try and CMP tire them on that one. Which I do. Pelipper does win CMP here as well. And now because they swapped in Frost Slash, they're going to be switch locked for quite a while. So if I can bring in my Stunfisk as soon as possible, I might be able to farm them all the way down whilst only taking 1 move. And as I said, Avalanche does more damage than Foul Play, so this is what I want to shield. And now we're going to be able to get a lot of farm before they're going to be able to swap out. And I do make a bit of a misplay here, I think. I think 2 Rock Slides does more damage than 1 Earthquake. So I should have definitely gone for 3 Rock Slides here instead. And I decided to go for Rock Slides now, realizing that I made a mistake. But it's still not enough. And also the Sableye back to back now. And you saw they waited a turn to throw the first move. So I think they're going to wait a turn here as well before throwing. I wait a turn and then try to catch my Registeel. But no, They anticipated it. Very nice play by my opponent. So we have to take the loss there. Next game, we lead into a Deoxys. They swap in a Charmer, Alolan Ninetales. Against a Shadow Charmer, Alolan Ninetales, or just a Shadow Alolan Ninetales, you can swap in your Registeel immediately because one move plus leaves it in lock-on range. But against the regular Alolan Ninetales, you do want to do a bit of fast move damage before swapping in, so that you can throw only one move and then farm them all the way down, come out with 100 energy. Go for another Wither Ball, does nothing. Now we can just farm them all the way down. Very nice. Bring back in the Deoxys, go for the Zap Cannon. And they shielded. Now we actually might be able to get to another one, but they don't allow it. So they go for the CMP. Nice counting by my opponent. But it's a Psycho Boost, so they're basically committing themselves to swap out. And this is exactly why I'm running this team. Because of teams like that. I'm seeing so many of them just with a Bastion on the back. Next game we lead into a Lanturn. Yikes. Save swap Registeel immediately. And I don't want to throw my energy here because I'm anticipating them to chip and dip. So like throw a serve and then swap out. So I want to keep my energy for whatever they're going to swap into. So I have a chance of maybe flipping switch here. But they actually continue staying in. And I also don't want to go over 100 energy. So I have to throw. And they still stay in. And they go for another move. But because I got the attack debuff, I might be able to live this. And we do live it on like 1 HP. And we get off the Focus Blast. So now we're going to be able to either get switch or grab a shield, which is very nice. The Lanturn is dry, so I can actually bring in my Pelipper now. And then they bring in the Charmer, Alolan Ninetales. A Rock Slide does about 57% to a Shadow Alolan Ninetales. An Earthquake does 68%. So sometimes you actually do want to go for the Earthquake, even though it's not super effective. I don't know if I can throw Rock Slide and leave it and put it in much at downrange, so that's why I go for the Earthquake. I don't want to take another Wither Ball. They bring back in the Lanturn. Of course, it's a Water Gun Lanturn. A lot worse for my Stunfisk. We go for the bait. Oh, is it really a bait? It's almost gonna knock out. We almost get to another one, but not quite. And at this point, we just have to shield. It's a surf. Ah, of course they're gonna surf. They bring in a Noctowl. It takes 6 wing attacks for both the first 2 sky attacks, so I want to CMP tie them on the second one to maximize energy here. So they're 4 away now, so I can come up with as much energy as possible. And this Weather Ball should be enough to take out the Noctowl, but how much energy does that Lanturn have? Can we take it out with Pelipper? Get to the Weather Ball. Is this enough to take it out? It's not, but 1 wing attack is. Pelipper is a Lanturn counter confirmed, of course. Next game lead into an Obstagoon. And wouldn't you know it, another Charmer. I make a misplay here as well. I wasn't sure you could get to 3 Earthquakes before getting charmed down, so I went for the Rock Slide. You should definitely go for the Earthquake here. You do win all even shield scenarios with Galarian Stunfisk straight Earthquake. And as you see, a Rock Slide is not enough, so if you go for the Rock Slide, you're gonna have to spend a shield. But then again, you do also come out with a bunch of energy, so we actually get back the shield against the Obstagoon, and we even get to another Earthquake here as well. And Obstagoon with 1 Charmer in the back. Have you seen a similar team before? Can you guess what's in the back? Bring in the Pelipper. They go for a move. It's an Obstruct. And I'm thinking they go for the Night Slash immediately here. It takes 6 for an Obstruct, 5 for the Night Slash. I'm gonna be able to outpace to 2 Weather Balls before they get to another Night Slash, which is why I shield. Thinking it's just a safe shield. I wasn't sure how much a Night Slash would do after I got the defense debuff, but I should be able to get to my Weather Ball at the same time as Obstagoon here. I go for the CMP, and yeah, I was right. We take out the Obstagoon, and if you guessed it was another Charmer in the back behind the Obstagoon, you were right, of course. Next game, lead into a Galarian Stunfisk. This is generally a good matchup for Pelipper, but Yeah, it's pretty neutral. You do actually lose the zero shields, so you don't want to go for your weather ball immediately, as you see here. By the first weather ball, it's not quite enough. You need a bit more wing attack damage before the weather ball is enough. So if you throw it now, they're still going to be able to get to the rock slide. So you just lose the zero shield. So choose to over farm instead. And then I go up to 2 before they get to the next rock slide, so I can wait a turn and throw in the middle of their mud shot. And now they're 1 away, so I can wait a turn again if they shielded that, but they don't, so we can just farm it down instead. They bring in a Bastiodon. We swap into Registeel. We lure out the Medicham. This is a very good spot. We still have enough HP on the Pelipper to handle the Medicham, so this is very nice. We don't get the debuff, unfortunate. But Medicham is still forced to throw all of its energy if it wants to take out the Registeel or expend a shield. If you want to spend the shield here by the as Medicham, I would probably go for an Ice Punch instead of a Psychic, and then maybe even undercharge it so you can farm up even more afterwards and come out with more energy. We go for the Weather Ball immediately. They know shielded. We know it's a Bastiodon in the back. We have a Stunfisk. This is not a difficult decision. Bring in the Stunfisk, and they concede the match. That was the last battle for today, and overall this is just a very strong team, especially if you're seeing a lot of the same backlines as I saw towards the end of this video. I think I gained around 60 elo with this team over 3 sets, despite the fact that I made a few misplays and didn't really play my best, so yeah, very strong team. Fun fact of the day, Pelipper has a very good 2-shield matchup against Defensor and Deoxys. You do lose the zeros and 1 shields against it, but just a very good thing to be aware of. If you shield twice, it's not going to be able to get to Thunderbolt, which makes the matchup very good for Pelipper. If you feel like you learned something or you just like this type of content, like and subscribe. Other than that, thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.